This is Chargers Unleashed podcast. Here are your hosts, Dan Wolfenstein and Jake Hefner.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LA Football Network. Today's show, of course, being brought to you by UFC Fit in Temecula, Golden Road Brewery, Charger Bolt Family, Tick Pick, and Bet Online. If this is your first time tuning into the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. Dan Wolkenstein, it is July 6th, which means we are still not back in football season, damn it.
But we're closer today than we were yesterday.
I'm getting frustrated over here, as I know everybody else is. We are, 2.5 weeks away? The Chargers come back to training camp the week of July 25th. I think it's officially on July 27th. They return to Jack Hammett Sports Complex. Mm-hmm. So we're getting there. We're getting there. But, God, bring me to August 13th for the first preseason game of the season. I don't care, man. Just give me some contact. Give me some pads. Give me just people hitting other people.
Something. God.
I need it.
Welcome to Chargers Unleashed. For folks who are tuning in live, welcome. You guys know the spiel. If not, feel free to leave your comments, questions, topics you'd like us to discuss. We'll do rapid fire throughout the episode. We'll try to do as much as we can to get in your comments and topics as we go along. We have a really, really fun episode today. As you know, Jake and I are huge movie fans. Jake more so than me. He can tell more movie titles and quotes than anybody I know. I challenge anyone to beat Jake at that.
Like I told you, Bulldog will be a very admirable opponent. And yes. Kevin.
Well, that'll be another episode we'll have to do just fully based on that. But
totally. Before
we get into that, Jake, I know we're going to talk about a few articles that came out recently this week that kind of caught our attention. But before we get into that, Jake, how are you?
I'm good, man. I mean,
I hate the fact
I told you 20 seconds ago how I'm feeling. I'll put it all out there if you need me to. But you want to talk about my disdain at this point of the year for the lack of football, for the lack of sports in general. Stanley Cup's wrapped up. NBA playoffs are and finals are all wrapped up. So we've got Wimbledon. Okay. We got baseball. We've got the UFC on the occasional Saturdays, but damn it, we're close enough. You could taste it. We're almost into August. I know people are not really the biggest fans of preseason. Everybody's looking towards September, but you know what? Screw that, man. Just give me football, give me pads, give me full contact. Let's go.
Yes. Yeah. So after the first segment where we have a couple of topics to discuss, the next topic that we're going to talk about for the majority of this is going to be Jake and I, as we're movie buffs. You heard the blockbuster term for folks who have not heard. I believe it's the defensive line that has
Brandon Fajoko came up with the blockbuster term for that position group.
So what Jake and I decided we wanted to try to do today, we'll give you some visuals for folks who are watching on YouTube, is position group wise. If you were to give position groups a movie title, which movie title would they be and why? So for folks in the comments, for folks watching, if you have a movie title for a specific position group that you would like to share, give it to us in the comments, and we'll go ahead and talk about it live if you give it to us live, or we will reply to you in the comments post-production.
This is the subject matter that you have to come up with during this time of the season.
You know what? We don't give up. We just are content creators. We're here for the listeners and the viewers. And look, if some of these are absolutely ridiculous, don't blame us. It's the early part of July. We have no football. This is all we got. But
that's right.
Just to kick things off, we are doing a giveaway as part of the LAFB. So if you text the word Unleashed to 31032, again, Unleashed to 31032, you can be entered into a LAFB giveaway for your choice to win a hat of your choice from Lids. You can get anything for the Chargers. You can get anything from the Trojans, Rams, if you want to talk about the Rams. You can talk about the Bruins, who may or may not be part of the Pac-12, Pac-10 anymore. So yeah, 31032, text the word Unleashed for your chance to enter in for a free hat of your choice from Lids. Jake, last thing before we get into the mushy-gushy stuff, let's pay the bills.
Absolutely. Our always got to pay the bills. Our partners over at Bet Online continue to be the number one source for all of your betting needs and sports information. Find all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Major League Baseball, the latest UFC fight news, and even next year's NFL futures. Head on over or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to get your bonus and get into the action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
Jake, herbalist, bolt up fan with a bunch of lightning bolts and a heart. Thunderbolt 24 comes in with a bolt up and says hello. Thunderbolts 24, Jake, also gives us a super sticker, $3. Thank you so much. Bolt up and let's go. This is gonna be a fun episode. I can't wait. Juan Arenado says Unleashed. Is that a movie?
No, bro. He was texting in the Unleashed to your code.
This is not 31032.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, fine.
You can clearly see he's participating.
I was wondering if there was a movie name called Unleashed. Bad to the Bone is the one that we're going to get later on, apparently. We got Fantastic Four from Herbalist as well, so we'll get more into those topics. Again, if you have movie titles that associate with position groups specifically, give it to us in the comments. We'll go ahead and talk about those live as we go. But, Jake, before we get into the movie stuff, first things first, latest news, articles, give it to us.
Well, there was, as far as like latest news, we're still obviously just waiting for training camp to kick off here. It's still the purgatory part of the season. But a couple articles did pop up over the last couple of days that we thought were very interesting. One specifically, Dan, as you and I are big fans of certain NFL media pundits. And when they were, this one in relating to a specific Bucky Brooks of the NFL Network, was going through his top duos for each position. So he had his top quarterback duo, however you want to put some sense behind that. And in his case, he did Josh Allen and Case Keenum for the best starting and backup quarterback duo. And so he was going through running back duos, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt in Cleveland, whatever his two. But Dan, I was very interested to read who he put as his number one wide receiving duo. And obviously I want to hear everybody else's opinion on this, because while Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are definitely a formidable receiving duo, Dan, I don't think that you nor I have thought of them as the best wide receiving duo in the NFL.
Yeah, I would say if you were to ask, just generally, like where would you put them? Someone said, "Hey, Jake, top wide receiver duos in the NFL: Keenan Allen, Mike Williams."
I mean, in no particular order, I'd say that they could belong in the top 10, but I would never even think about putting them as the number one. Bucky Brooks thought it differently, though, because he ranked for this upcoming season Keenan Allen and Mike Williams as the number one wide receiving duo in the league. Just behind them, he put Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow. And at number 3, he put Chris Godwin and Michael Evans.
Number one? Now, I'm sure that the quarterback aspect definitely has something to do with that. And of course, I'm interested to hear anybody's comments on this, because this is, kind of a subjective opinion on where your feelings may lie as far as this goes. But what do you think? I mean, just overall, I definitely would keep Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow in there as far as their talent goes. It's good. Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they've been established, especially with Tom Brady. I would definitely put Jamar Chase and T. Higgins in that conversation, given what they did in their first year. And if we're still ranking, 1-to-1 from a quarterback ratio standpoint, they put up some really good numbers. But I don't know. What do you think, Ken? You got like Cortland Sutton. You've got Tim Patrick. You got Jerry Jeudy. That's like a trio, I guess. You've got, as much as we don't want to talk about the Dolphins, we got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And Tyreek Hill is a bona fide top 5 wide receiver. Hunter Renfrow, Devontae Adams. Want to throw in Darren Waller in there as kind of a pseudo wide receiver. You could have said Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts, but now it's just Kyle Pitts, even though he's not really a receiver. I know I'm a homer. And even I don't necessarily think that the Chargers have the best wide receiver duo in the NFL. But I do think that if you were to kind of combine wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and quarterback that's throwing to them, then I could see it.
Your list would be completely different, of course.
Yes. But the reason why I see those two as being number one, if I'm in Bucky Brooks' head, is because of the guy who's throwing to them. Like, if it was, for example, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, if they had Justin Herbert throwing to them, they'd be in the top 5. But they don't. So I get it just because of the bump that Justin Herbert gives from a sheer volume perspective. But, I mean, I don't know. Number 1's a little rich. Like,
Yeah.
sell it to me. How would you sell number 1 wide receiver duo?
I mean, if you just were to take, the sample size of what you got from both players last year, definitely as far as both of them having good, solid production years, it's probably one of the best that you've seen out of a Chargers wide receiving duo in some time, no question. But I think what it is again, we're still talking about duos in this aspect. And Dan, I gear more towards what you're saying. If you narrowed this conversation to where you said, okay, what's the trifecta? Almost using the old school triplets mentality of what you used to use for the Dallas Cowboys with Aikman, Smith, and
Irvin.
Thank you. That to me would be more relatable. So if you were just talking wide receiving duos plus the quarterback, then yeah, I think that this list is a little bit more relatable. But I don't know. I think when you're just thinking of just overall production, Jamar Chase to me just came on the scene. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. When Adam Thielen is healthy, they're a good wide receiving duo.
I think you would take those two.
Sure. I mean, Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis with Josh Allen as the quarterback. You got a little glimpse of it last year. It wasn't that big of a sample size because of the time that Gabriel Davis was really coming on. But the expectations for this year, I think they're going to be a very formidable group. So what are you basing it on? I think that's more of the question that is getting to me a little bit, because that's not in Bucky Brooks's explanation. It's simply just based off of production. I think in his head, he's relating it to the quarterback scenario. But if that's the case, then this changes this entire different argument. And you could think of 100 different ways to mismatch this if it wasn't solely based on the quarterback.
100%. Brad Fuller is on his way home from work. Sup, fellas? Just got off work and watching as I drive home. Hold on. Listen, you're listening on your drive home. You're listening on your drive home.
Yes.
What's going on today? Any squad, any place? I agree. Again, for folks in the comments, give us who your movie titles would be for specific. I almost said Pacific. I was thinking Pacific Rim. For specific position groups. And we're going to go ahead. Honestly, Jake, we've already had some gems in the comments.
I saw some of them. They're pretty good.
I can't wait to get into that. On the duos, Jake, did it by chance mention anything about corners or defensive backs or edge rushers? Were any Chargers in those?
So there's kind of a twofer that I was going to lead into, because he did have the edge rushing combos, which in Bucky Brooks's case, he had Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney as his number 1 duo. Right behind that, he had Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, which I think is relatable. Now, we haven't seen Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack actually play on the same field at the same time. So this is probably just a little bit more projection. But Again, I have another article here that is going to be relating to those two players here in just a second. But without a doubt, I think Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack definitely belong in the top 5.
No doubt. And I was thinking about this earlier, Jake, when you had mentioned that they were in the top 5. And I was kind of thinking like, okay, how would I personally rank like top duos? And I was kind of thinking like, if I were to just take the totals of where they rank in the NFL. So for example, let's say Myles Garrett, I think, would probably be, in most people's eyes, the number 1 edge rusher in the NFL. So that's 1. And then if you look at Jadeveon Clowney, I don't know. His best days are behind him, probably. But I would say probably top 15 to 20, I would say. So if you add those two up, let's call it, 17-ish? Number 1, number 16, 17. And you look at Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. I would say Joey Bosa would probably be a top 5 somewhere, and Khalil Mack would probably be I don't know, top 7 to 10. So if you add those two numbers up, to me, those two numbers, if we're going golf scores, is better than a one Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett. Now, obviously, Myles Garrett brings anyone into the fold, just like you would see in Aaron Donald. Anyone next to him would be great as a tandem for defensive interior. So it's hard for me to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack aren't number one. But like, also, I don't necessarily know if I would say that duo is above them. I mean, there's some damn good duos. Like, I'm thinking like Max Crosby and
Chandler Jones.
Chandler Jones is a good one. I'm totally blanking. There's a few that I would have thought that would be higher than this. So, I mean, I like it. Chargers number 2. What about secondary? Anything in there?
Nothing in the secondary. Nothing in the secondary. There's obviously a lot of mismatch in the secondary that has changed for this team. So Bucky Brooks did not have the safety duo was Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde from Buffalo. The cornerback duo was Xavier Howard and Byron Jones from Miami. But
Derwin James wasn't on there.
Derwin James, Nasir Adderley, they weren't part of the top 3 duo that he's ranking them on. Come on, Dan. Be a little bit more.
No, but I'm saying I think Derwin James you could argue is number 1.
Well, sure. As far as just if we're talking about one safety, I can understand that.
I'm saying it's like the same equivalent as a Jadeveon Clowney and a Myles Garrett. Now, is he as good as Jadeveon Clowney is as a corner, as a defensive back in Nasir Adderley? Probably not. But let's say it's like number 1 and number, 18. I would think that'd be top 5. I don't know. Okay, what else?
Anyways, relating to those same individuals, and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. So ESPN's Jeremy Fowler put together his list of the NFL's best pass rushers. We're not talking about duos anymore. Now we're just talking about them individually. So Joey Bosa landed on the list at number 4, 1 spot below his brother Nick Bosa. And Khalil Mack came in 9th overall on the list. And
4 and 9.
And in taking into this, the Fowler does acknowledge that he spoke with 50 coaches, players, scouts, and front office executives collectively and put together this list that way. So just so you can keep context of how he decided to come up with this list. But Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, 4 and 9 respectively of the top 50 top edge rushers in the league, not top 50, just top edge pass rushers in the league.
2 of the top 10 in your own team. That's not bad. I'll take it. It's kind of funny. Like, everyone still is like pinching themselves. Like, they don't know what this is going to look like, which this is kind of a good little segue into the movie content that we're about to be talking about. But you don't really know what that movie looks like because
you don't know what it looks like.
It's like you're having like a mashup of 2 epic songs, but you don't know what the mashup together looks like yet. Like, that's kind of what this reminds me of.
A little bit.
But people are pumped, man. I mean, Khalil Mack, when healthy, is an absolute wrecking ball. Like, he was dominating before he got hurt last year.
6 sacks in 7 games. Not bad.
Average that out, people. Like, you'll take that every single year for production for your edge rusher. Absolutely. Okay, so we got Jeremy Fowler article. We have the top duo by Bucky Brooks. Was there anything else we're missing before we head over to the movie discussion?
Anything in general, Dan, as far as just since we've had our last conversation on here, I know we're not at training camp yet. I know we're going to be there in just a couple of weeks. We're looking forward to it. Is there anything that you have personally been thinking as far as just things to watch as we get closer? Obviously, we're going to be doing all of our training camp battles as we delve into the preseason. And I'd like to hear everybody else's comments on this as well, just as far as any thoughts, as far as what you're looking forward to seeing over the next month and a half. But Dan, anything from you just in terms of perspective, because we've talked about so much here over this offseason, but anything else that's come to your mind as far as, you know what, we need to hammer down on that. I'm looking forward to seeing X. Need to see more production from this player. What?
I honestly, the one thing that I'm looking forward to is Derwin James getting re-signed before the season starts. Like, I think he is, but in my opinion, I think the better question is, will he sign an extension before training camp? And
that's the goal.
You've seen it
Hopefully.
like with Joey Bosa literally walking in the door to training camp, and he signed it like 2 minutes prior. That's a big storyline. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack together on the same line. I think that's a big storyline to see. Wide receivers, like who's going to make the squad other than those top 4 that we know? Tight ends, how many? Are we going to have 4? Which running backs are we going to have? Like, I think there's so many roster questions.
There is.
And again, these are good questions to have because it points to the depth where you're having to actually have battles for number 52 and 53 on your roster. How many corners are we going to have? Like, is someone like a Covington or a Tillery going to miss the roster? Will we see Joe Reed? Do we have a punter that we like? Who's going to be our kick returner? Like, we don't. So many things that we have to kind of figure out. Who is Andre Carter on this team? DeAndre Carter, excuse me. So tons of questions, and I think that's kind of what is so fun about training camp and about preseason is all of those questions are going to be answered. And it's just a matter of us trying to figure out, when they're going to be answered. Will they be answered before the preseason? Most of them probably. Some of them definitely not. Like, you'll probably get some roster spots that are taken from like literally the last or second to last preseason game. That's how important these are going to be.
Sounds all right.
Those are my storylines to look for. Anything I missed from you?
No. You kind of just went through and covered the full gamut. Obviously, things that we're going to delve into a lot more in detail, especially when we're talking about the overall 53 roster predictions here over the next several weeks, which is going to be very, very interesting. And just, from all indications that we've gotten from coaches or reports or anything like that, there will be some surprise names, maybe some that aren't necessarily a surprise, depending on who you are, that are probably going to be left off this list. And I'll tell you what, considering the lack of starting positions that the Chargers are going to have, it's going to be a tight camp battle when we get into the late days of August.
I can't wait. And we're going to be there. We'll be covering some of the training camps live from Jack Hammett. So if you're going to be there, come by, say hello. All right, Jake, for folks who are tuning in, who are watching, this is going to be a very interactive. Want to get as much interaction from you as possible. So again, if there is a movie title that you associate with a position group on this Chargers roster, give it to us in the comments. We're going to go through ours. I have not seen Jake's list. Jake has not seen my list, other than we have some pictures here. Literally, that's all we know. And we'll, of course, bring in some of the folks in the comments about what your guys' titles are. Jake, let's just start off with a couple that people have to kind of kick this thing off. So
I like some of these that I've seen.
I'm going to go way up to the top. Let's start at the beginning. So we've got, let's see, start with interior defensive line. This is from Shaggy Elwood. Love and Thunder is the movie title for interior defensive line. I'm curious, who is Love and who is Thunder?
Interior defensive line, Love and Thunder. You know what? I probably, if I had to side with one or the other, I probably would have to say that Sebastian Joseph Day would be the Thunder and Austin Johnson would be the Love. Okay. I don't know what. P.S. I have my tickets for Friday.
Attaboy.
No spoilers. Stoked for the new Thor movie.
Herbalist, The Boondock Saints. Epic
Fantastic
movie. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, they are going to turn the football world upside down, just like the Boondock Saints wreck shop with a mob in that movie. You can't go wrong with the Boondock Saints. Let's see what else we got here. We've got, what did you love? Wow, live shows. Edges would be Ghost in the Darkness. Have you seen this movie, Jake? I have not.
Are we talking about, Ghost and the Darkness or Ghost in the Darkness?
Let's go in. I don't know either of those. Which one is that?
So Ghost in the Darkness, kind of in retrospect now, I believe it's 1995, 1996, somewhere around there. But first off, great leading actors you have on this, Dan. Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer. If we're just relating it from title standpoint, I get it. But the film itself is kind of a little bizarre. But I get it. I like the title. I like the title. So I'm okay with it. Ghost in the Darkness. I'm good with it.
Okay, for the tight end group, and then we'll get into ours. We'll go back to some of the comments as we go through. Towers of Power, another movie I have not seen. Have you seen this?
I have not seen Towers of Power.
Ian
But-
Alexander, we
but
will take your
obviously
word for it.
the title makes a hell of a lot of sense when we're talking about the tight end position here.
Yes. All right, Jake. So, again, Jake has not heard my rationale. I have not heard Jake's. And literally all we have here coming up is going to be pictures of movie posters. And Jake and I are going to have to kind of sell each of these movie titles for position groups. Jake, you ready?
I'm set.
Okay. I will say, this is unfair for folks who are watching. We put this together, and I, for whatever reason, could not figure out how to reorder this. So I believe all of these at the top are going to be mine. All the ones afterwards are going to be Jake's. So bear with us as we go through. Jake, ready? Number one?
Let's have it.
Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Lethal Weapon. You know who I'm going with this position group?
Who's this?
This is going to be the Edge group.
No surprise.
Now, a lot of people, I was kind of thinking like, oh, this could totally be like, this could be a Justin Herbert type thing, or this could be like a skill position. I could go wide receivers here, given we now have the top 2 wide receiver duo in the NFL. I'm going with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. 2 guys who are completely different, who had to kind of come together to join forces to go ahead and take over, if you will. And so I couldn't imagine, in this movie, Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, polar opposites attract, very different in styles and what they do, coming together just like you would with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. A to F. What do you give me?
Oh, it's an A. This was a thought of mine that I would have given the Edge group, but I figured that this was, low-hanging fruit, and I figured that you were going to do it, so I chose to go a different direction.
This is low-hanging fruit for you?
It is low-hanging fruit because it totally makes sense, Dan. What were we just talking about? 2 guys that as a duo would, arguably they are in the top 5 as far as edge rushing duos, and for one of the best buddy cop movies of all time. Especially just with the humor, the action, the attitude that is behind both Mel Gibson and Danny Glover in this. I grew up on the original. I loved 1 through 3. 4 was but the original, especially with Gary Busey as the villain in the finale that takes place on Danny Glover's front lawn, it's epic. Loved it. But yeah, to me, this was a little bit too obvious for the edge rushing group. So I actually had a couple of names that I came up with, much in the same realm as you did, Dan. I kind of went with more of the buddy cop thing,
okay.
Trying to stay on premise with just, 2 guys going head to head or teaming up. So I went with either Double Impact from 1991.
It's coming. That's coming. I think I have that up here somewhere.
Okay. So what do you want me to do? Since your order is like this, do you want me to continue with the Edge group, or do you want me to go with a different?
I'm gonna go. We're gonna go with the next picture. We'll go picture by picture, and I think both of us have one for this one.
Okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
So I will let you go first because I think you had Fast and Furious. I think it was 8, and I had Fast and Furious.
I had Fast 5.
Fast 5.
And I relate. I've got a couple names for the wide receiver group. Fast 5 was one of mine, just because from the standpoint it makes sense. Chargers most likely will end up only keeping 5 wide receivers. For a quick exclamation point on my movie titles, I tried to make them as relatable from the premise and the title that relates to each one of these position groups. So Fast 5 was one of mine. Dan, go ahead and explain what you related the Fast and the Furious to.
Fast and the Furious, I have this as the overall Chargers defense. And you hear about Brandon Staley talking about you say the term multiple, right? The thing that this Chargers team has lacked in terms of depth, top to bottom on defense, has been speed and the ability to go sideline to sideline with the best of them. And you see what the Chargers have tried to go after in some of that speed and ferocity, if you will. You look at a J.C. Jackson, who is top 5 corner in the NFL. You look at Asante Samuel Jr., who is cat-like instincts, incredibly quick. J.T. Woods, who they went out and signed, incredibly fast track star. You got Nasir Adderley, who, again, playmaker, ridiculous athlete. Mike Davis, incredibly fast. You put him on Tyreek Hill all the time, although he's not going to go up against him as much as he was before. The defense, Derwin James. You've got Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack. You've got Kyle Van. All these guys they've kind of brought in. Even a Kenneth Murray and a Drue Tranquill, those guys are fast. And so they've kind of injected so much speed into this defense for playmakers where I saw Fast and Furious, where it was I was kind of thinking Gone in 60 Seconds a little bit, but I went Fast and the Furious just because I thought that was going to be a little better. So you have it for the receiving core. I have it for the defensive squad. Which one do you like more? Who sold it better?
I mean, I like your rationale for the defense. And again, because I have a couple other ones for the wide receivers. I didn't just stop with Fast Five because I thought that there was a few more titles that were applicable for that position group. But if you're just talking overall defense, I could understand this. You had to improve on your defense in a variety of different ways. You showed that by free agency, going out and upgrading the defensive line through the cornerback position, through the draft. I like it. I think it's a very relatable title.
All right. Next one on my list, Jake. And I believe this was a costume of yours, wasn't it? For Halloween?
Oh, yes. This is what I was for Halloween last year. I'm so excited to hear your explanation on why you're relating Free Guy to this team.
Ryan Reynolds in Free Guy. Before I tell you, who do you think this is? What's your guess?
Free Guy. If I was to relate it to anything. Like, when I hear free and I'm thinking of like the football term, I'm thinking like defense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is your safety group. Would this be Derwin James? No?
No. Oh, that's a great one, though. That's a great one.
I don't know. I give up.
All right. I'm actually going to go with QB1 for this one. Now,
okay.
If you look at the movie poster by itself, right? Destruction all around him. And he's kind of this guy who's very kind-hearted, very innocent, and he's trying to find love. He's trying to find, his way throughout this premise of everything that's absolutely mayhem throughout the entire movie, right? And all these bad guys are coming, and he's surrounded by a whole bunch of crap. And he kind of just takes over with his, his happiness. He takes over with his charming personality. Obviously, he has incredible special moves. He's basically a superhero with the glasses on. And all of that stuff in the midst of this video game that he has no business in. And you relate that to a Justin Herbert, right? Who cool as the other side of the pillow. No one would think that he would be able to succeed because he's not a leader, quote unquote. He doesn't have the type A alpha personality.
Listen to Dan Wolkenstein.
Free Guy and Justin Herbert are more of a match made in heaven than you think. I mean, Justin Herbert is kind of buttoned up, right? He's a pretty PG guy, likes to stay out of the spotlight, just like Free Guy. But when needed, he absolutely kicks ass and wins it over. And so I go Free Guy for Justin Herbert, taking over the video game, i.e. the NFL, and in theory, set up to win. We'll see if he does.
Bravo. The fact that you went back all the way talking about Herbert's personality, his perception when he came in the league, what was he, how were people looking at him, and the fact that you just related that to one of my favorite movies is phenomenal. Well done.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, a couple other ones that we have here. Shaggy Elwood is saying heist movie for the secondary. I'll take it. I like it.
I like that, actually. Better than hey, I like that better than Jack Boys.
Yes. Do you think it better than Blockbusters? Quiet. Independence Day for the safeties is one that was given to us. Now, Jake, where's the reference for that?
Well, I'm trying to figure that. I mean, I'm trying to think here.
The last line of defense before the world ends, maybe?
Yeah, probably. I may have gone with if you were talking about the safety term, I may have gone the Men in Black type of scenario as far as protection, last line of defense. But I get it. I can follow it the way that you were putting it there, Dan. I can relate it.
Okay. All right. James Wagner, friend of the show, has come in. Bolt up, guys. Hoping everyone is well. God bless. Thank you, James, for tuning in, and for everyone else. Again, if you are just tuning in, we are doing movie titles that correspond to position groups on this team. We've already gone through a few. We've gone through Fast and the Furious. You got Free Guy. Next up on our list, Jake. This is yours.
Yes.
Double Impact.
So I relate this was one of my relations to the Edge group. You think about some of the duos and along with the title name and everything like that we're relating to, what is the impact that is going to be the likes of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa teaming up together? Neither one of these guys has had an edge rusher of that type of caliber alongside of them during their NFL career. So there's a lot to be stoked about this. And of course, in this movie, spoiler alert, there's actually a couple Van Damme references that I have throughout my movie list here. So just bear with me.
Damn right.
Sue me. I'm a child of the 80s. What can I say? I love 80s action. But another one here, Dan, that I actually thought was more appropriate, much like you, type of a buddy cop pair up movie. How about Two Guns? 2013, Mark Wahlberg, Denzel Washington. You got both guys that are, one's working for, the government CIA. The other guy is a U.S. Marine, and they kind of get put together under unconventional circumstances, and they're playing one another. Each one doesn't know that they're getting played by the other one. And then they have to end up teaming up and just causing havoc throughout the drug lords, throughout the government that's going after him. So Two Guns, I think, would be just phenomenal for Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack.
I'll take it. I love it. Okay, we have talked about all offseason, which Avenger, who would be on this team, and what one Justin Herbert would be. I think we came up with Thor, which would be what Justin Herbert was. But you chose Avengers. After this, we'll go ahead and do a couple more that folks have given us in the chat. But Avengers, Jake, what position group is the Avengers?
This is for my DBs, collectively the cornerbacks and the safeties.
High praise.
There's a reason behind this. I put this from the standpoint of, we know where the Chargers stood when it relates to third down defense last year. And then I went back to a line that Tony Stark says to Loki when he says, if we can't protect the earth, you better damn well be sure we're going to avenge it. That is their goal for 2022. Avenge yourself. Avenge your mistakes from last year. You bring in J.C. Jackson. You bring in Bryce Callahan. You go out and you draft J.T. Woods to help out in that safety group of the secondary. You're going to have Derwin James as your piece, your Tony Stark, essentially, your Captain America, however you want to relate Derwin James to. But the Avengers is what this group should be heading into 2022, because you have to get better from that secondary standpoint.
Okay, on the spot, Jake. DB group. Which Avenger is Derwin James?
See, like if we were talking, because Thor in this movie still to me is not like even at his most powerful. He didn't really get to that until Ragnarok. Tony was well established. Cap even wasn't really at his most powerful in this movie. To me, when it got to Winter Soldier, that's just where he kicked everyone's ass. So really the one that caused the most destruction and best scenes in these movies, I'm kind of going to say it was the Hulk. Because he was just wiping out dudes, and especially Loki, all over the place.
I would give the Hulk to Khalil Mack, honestly. Like healthy, I think that's who I'd go with. Interesting. Okay, Jake, let's get into some of the other ones that we have. Blue Deftone, what's going on? He says, Bolt up. What about the other guys?
Great buddy cop team up movie. Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg, absolutely.
Who would that be?
Well, if it's it's the other guys to me, because that's I did come across that, and I just didn't think that you'd relate Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa to the other guys. So if you want to relate it to Kyle Van Noy and the rest of the edge rush group, the other guys, that's totally fine.
What about like Easton Stick and Chase Daniel?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's probably appropriate. Yes.
All right. Shaggy Elwood has Kyle Horvath for Demolition Man.
God, I love this movie. It is such an underrated, underappreciated action movie. Sylvester Stallone, Wesley Snipes just tear the crap out of a future Los Angeles. And Dan, it's so appropriate because so many things that were basically predicted or projected in the movie are things that we have now. And it's just a great action movie, great humor. If you have not seen Demolition Man, for the love of God, stop what you're doing and go out and watch it because it's awesome.
Herbalist has 3 Musketeers for the cornerbacks: J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr., and Bryce Callahan. I get behind that.
Mm-hmm.
I like this one too. He also gave Saving Private Ryan the offensive line for Justin Herbert, like 100%.
Right.
There was a good one here. Lord of the Rings he actually came in with. Herbalist, I think this might be the best one so far. Lord of the Rings, Justin Herbert is Frodo, Chase Daniels is Sam, and he gives more. Taking the ring deep into the heart of Mount Mordor, going to the Super Bowl. Bolta.
Amen.
Sounds
whatever movie you want to reference, and when you get into this aspect as it relates to the Chargers finishing with a Lombardi trophy in their hand, you could call it whatever the hell you want to call it.
Reality Check says the other guys got to be bench players that come in. Yes, that's why I said Chase Daniel, Easton Stick. Come on. Tropical Gun would be James Wagner's recommendation for the secondary. The Need for Speed and No Fly Zone.
I think he's putting together Tropic Thunder and Top Gun. That's my guess. I'm not sure if he meant to say Top Gun because
Tropical Thunder
and the Fly Zone. But hey, two movies with Tom Cruise, so I would love to see his character from Tropic Thunder flying an F-14.
Yeah. Blue Deftone with saying Demolition Man. What about the Expendables?
I mean, the Expendables, yes, because if you're thinking about all the 80s action heroes, the biggest and the baddest coming together for one movie, true. I think it was the title that just kind of gets me a little bit tweaked on that, because I understand the Expendables title as it relates to the characters in the movie, but who necessarily from this roster is considered expendable?
Gotcha. Joe Fernandez, friend of the show, diehard Bolt Club fam. Bolt up, gents. 1 month left until preseason football. Blesses us with his presence. Looking forward to seeing everyone soon. BTFU.
Amen.
Amen. All right, Jake, let's get back into it. Next one. Goodfellas. Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro. Who is this, Jake?
This was another one that I had for the wide receiver group. You know, you got Robert De Niro, as I would relate to as like Keenan Allen, you know, the leader of the wide receiver group. You got Joe Pesci as the number 2 guy who could honestly be considered as the number 1, who's just a badass. We know how bad Joe Pesci is in this movie. And then you got Ray Liotta. Ever since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to be a gangster. The young pup, the guy who's really coming up in the crew. I'm relating that to Josh Palmer a little bit. So Goodfellas, for me, I really related to the wide receiver group here.
Okay. Now, I think that's all of the images that we have, but I think there were some more that both of us had to discuss. So one of them, Jake, that I had, one of my all-time favorite movies, Anchorman. Now, when I say that, I'll give you a second here. Which group do you think, or what position would that be? What comes to mind?
That definitely sounds like offensive line to me.
Yes, there we go.
And if we put in the I'm Ron Burgundy with a question mark, are we really sure what's going to happen at that right tackle position?
I Love Lamp. We could have been a couple years ago.
There you go.
I miss those days, Forrest Lamp. Aw. But yes, Anchorman, Jake. Think about anchors that this team has not had until these last few seasons. All of a sudden, you get Rashawn Slater anchoring the left side. Corey Linsley in the center spot for Justin Herbert. You got now Zion Johnson there anchoring the right side. We'll see what happens at right tackle. We don't know. But you could argue we have 3 guys at their positions who could arguably be top. 2 of them are definitely top 10 in their position. One of them we don't know yet, but arguably he should be considering how high he was drafted in Zion Johnson. You got Matt Filer. The anchors that Justin Herbert has, Phillip Rivers has only dreamed of having. And recently we kind of heard about Phillip Rivers now finally getting able to talk about Justin Herbert and how excited he is and how much he's rooting for him. Like, there's got to be a part of Phillip Rivers, and I know he's a competitive guy, I know he's super kind, but there's got to be a part of him that's been like, what the hell, man? Like, where was this for me for 15 years? So, I'm going to go with Anchorman for the offensive line. I'm trying to think of position groups we have not done. So, off the cuff, do you have any for the running back crew?
I have a couple for the running back crew. So, and again, my titles kind of relate to the situation that is currently the running back crew. So, the first one I had was the A Team 2010. If you have not seen that version of the A Team with Bradley Cooper and Liam Neeson, it's a great little action movie, actually, the way it turned out. But I'm calling it the A Team because it really is Austin Ekeler's team, the A Team. Who are the other guys that are behind him? But more appropriately to that situation, Dan, how about Catch Me If You Can? 2002, Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio. Austin Ekeler's just standing here. He's challenging the rest of that running back group to come and get him. Catch me if you can. Catch Austin Ekeler if you can.
Someone needs to, on LAFB, come up with a kind of new shirt that has Austin Ekeler in the symbol of Catch Me If You Can. I love it. Well done, Jake. Let's see. Special teams. Real quick, LAFB, I believe this is probably Ryan chiming in. Anchorman, easily the wide receiver core. So we don't have Ryan. We don't have Ryan in here to tell us about this. But
I'd love to hear this justification.
Maybe
just because of the group of them collectively as a group.
They are pretty funny though too. Think about like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Like they're both pretty giggly fellows. Josh Palmer, I don't really know his personality that much.
Who would you relate Paul Rudd's character to for this wide receiving core?
I think I would plead the fifth on that one. I don't know.
Oh my God. I think if it was me, it has to be Mike Williams. Definitely Mike Williams.
Shaggy Elwood comes in. Can't wait to hear the offensive line sing Afternoon Delight. Yes, please. Oh, man. Let's see. We got Lucas Mexicano with Bad Boys. I'm not sure who that would be.
You could relate this to a number of position groups with that movie.
Special teams?
If you want to relate it like that, yeah, there's different movies things I think you could come up with. That one may be relatable to the other guys, essentially.
Yeah, fair. And it looks like you were right, Jake. Right on cue. Mike Williams equals Paul Rudd. You had it. Okay. Wide receiver group, according to Reality Check, is Operation Dumbo Drop.
Dan, do you remember this movie?
No.
I do. I don't necessarily understand the wide receiver reference here. Maybe just as far as catching it, but that's about the only reference I can get from this movie.
Okay. Let's see. Lexus Mexicano says, I would say running backs are stepbrothers because it's a little animosity, but they might soon love each other.
Okay. All right.
And would you say there's animosity?
I wouldn't necessarily say that there's animosity, but there is some. I mean, there's definitely some calling out. We've been hearing this all since last year from Brandon Staley, waiting for the number 2 guy to really show themselves. And last year with Justin Jackson, Larry Roundtree, Joshua Kelly, that didn't end up coming to fruition. Now you're 1 year later. You've drafted another running back in Isaiah Spiller. And now when you actually have Austin Ekeler saying, come get me, guys. Come take the same exact opportunity that I took when I was undrafted and I had my shot and I took it. So I wouldn't necessarily say there's some animosity, but there's definitely some challenging, specifically as it relates to this position group. Go, sure.
Yeah, I think he's kind of wondering, like, he's probably asking Isaiah Spiller and Roundtree and everyone, like, why aren't you so sweaty? Instead of why are you so sweaty? Or yes. like he's wanting to know if they can, Catalina wine mix in a little bit to the running back position. Cause like he's sitting there on an island. Nice
transition. Nice.
On a boat.
Reference. Nice pun.
On a boat. I mean,
Lord.
He's sitting there just needing help from someone. Investors, possibly someone, please. Someone take running back 2 spot. I can't believe it.
I did not know you were going to go that depth into it.
Okay, we've got D-line, Fantastic Beast, Secret of Staley.
See, but if you said the full movie title, Fantastic Beast and Where to Find Them, that would have been more appropriate for the defensive line last year. Where are my Fantastic Beast? Where to find them?
Yeah. Hefe, friend of the show, our fellow Chiefs fan. Hefe, okay, what would you give the Chiefs? Would you say like... I thought about some of that. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. What would you give for the Chiefs? What would be a good movie title for them?
I mean, I don't know. I need some time to think about that.
Legends of
honestly.
the Fall.
I need some time to think about that.
Legends of the
honestly.
Fall.
Whoa. Okay. All right. So you're coming out swinging like that. Okay. All right.
Glory days.
Enjoy yourself, Evan.
Good luck to your Chiefs this year. Can't wait. What position group would you guys give Back to the Future, according to Herbalist?
Somebody already, I saw it in the chat. Somebody already had a nice reference to it. They actually referenced it was,
See if I can find
player to coach, but it was basically Staley going back to grab Khalil Mack to bring him into the future and combine him with Joey Bosa, which I like that. I thought that was very creative.
Where did you see that? I didn't see that come in.
It was way up toward the top, like earlier before we even got into the discussion, but I remember catching that.
Okay. Reality Check says Jack Reacher for our year one Super Bowl expectations.
What do you think about that, Dan?
It's a bit of a reach. I'll give you that.
That is true. I like how he's trying to incorporate,
yes,
little parts of the words. So this is what we're talking about. This is the creativeness that we're looking for.
Okay, so Jake, what would you give the coaching staff?
See, I didn't come up with the coaching staff.
I didn't either.
To be honest,
I didn't either.
I wouldn't know. I'd probably have to put a little bit of thought into that one. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
I would have to come back to that. Let's see. Brad Fuller here with kind of a comment off the side. The way Coach Staley has been talking about DJ and Derwin was actually there when Derwin was actually there. Wait. The way Coach Staley has been talking about DJ and Derwin was actually there when Staley was signing says a lot. He's getting the bag before training camp. Okay, so I think he was talking about when Staley was talking about Derwin James while Derwin James, or the other way around. Derwin James was talking about the extension. He was talking good about his coach, and I think gave him a shout out while the coach was walking by. I think that's what Brad is referring to. Sorry, it took me 15 minutes to get that out of there. So that's it for the movie titles that I had, Jake. With any other movie titles that you had off the clip?
Yeah.
See, this is what I'm saying. Jake is like the master of movie stuff. So this is right up his alley. So let's hear it, Jake. Rapid fire.
So I had a couple other ones. So for linebackers, this has nothing to do with the actual premise of the movie, but the title is very, very appropriate. How about for the linebacker groups, Dan? We talked about this. Arguably, when you're looking at the overall depth, it's one of the weakest positions that's on this team. Kenneth Murray coming back from surgery. Drue Tranquill, that we know when he's healthy and productive for every single one of the games, he's awesome when it comes to being in that linebacker spot. But the depth behind it now, when you're looking at Brandon Staley going out and getting Troy Reeder, it's not the best when it comes to the depth. So it's very top heavy in terms of talent goes. So I went with Maximum Risk, another Van Damme reference, 1996 movie. Maximum risk is what you're taking with this linebacking group when you're just looking at that overall position group.
I like it.
Everybody needs to cross their fingers, really.
I thought you were going maximum risk with the right. I thought you were going maximum risk with the right tackle.
No. Actually, I have a different one for right tackle. Believe it or not, how about all the right moves? Tom Cruise, Craig T. Nelson, Leah Thompson, 1983. And the premise of the movie, Dan, it's about a dude who is just looking for a shot to prove himself playing football. It's almost along the similar lines of Rudy, but this is Trey Pipkins' opportunity to get the right tackle spot. He's in a contract year. We've seen all of his ups and downs that he's gone through, a lot more downs than there have been of ups since he has been drafted by this team. But Trey Pipkins now has his opportunity. So all the right moves to acquire or to be this team's starting right tackle.
I like it. How long ago was that movie out?
1983.
83. Okay, so that's before Stranger Things was supposedly out. I never saw it.
Well, yeah, you weren't born yet, so that's
you weren't born either, and you saw it. So
I'm a child of the 80s, man. Though I definitely go back to my 80s roots.
Fair enough. I will say though, like, imagine Isaiah Spiller and Austin Ekeler on the cover of this.
Mm-hmm. Not bad, right?
That'd be great. Austin Ekeler would endorse it, I think. What else
Definitely.
you got?
How about the three amigos for the tight end group? Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, Martin Short, 1986. Steve Martin's kind of the veteran, the showman, or the front runner of the group that everybody can get behind. That's going to be the Gerald Everett's role in this. You got Donald Parham. You relate him to Chevy Chase, not only just from the height standpoint, because he's the biggest guy out of these three individuals. And then Martin Short, who was kind of just in the real beginning of his stardom before he really kind of took off. He's Trey McKitty to me. So again, I don't see the Chargers keeping more than three tight ends when we're getting to the finality of this group when it comes to final cut downs. But yeah, three amigos. I like it.
How about this? Would you give the heavyweights to the interior defensive line?
That could be one. I actually put the defensive line, and I think that this is very appropriate. How about Upgrade 2018? It's a very lesser known sci-fi action movie starring Logan Marshall Green, and obviously upgrades for a variety of different reasons, given who you had on your interior defensive line last year. You go out and you get Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson. You can even throw in Morgan Fox in there on what you bring into the interior of the defensive line. But Dan, this movie is essentially about a guy who witnesses his girlfriend getting killed. He ends up being paralyzed, and this corporation comes in and basically inserts a chip into his neck that artificial intelligence takes over his brain. He can walk again, and then he basically just takes revenge on everybody that had anything to do with it. But Upgrade, in a variety of different ways, is appropriate for the interior defensive line.
I could use that. There's some shots fired here in the comments. I'm not even going to read some of these. Reality Check says deep impact for the defensive line. Which, when's the last time we had depth the defensive line like this?
Yeah, but if you're relating it to depth, sure, I get that one. That's true.
Okay. Reality Check also, Trey Pipkins for risky business.
I love that. I think that's extremely appropriate.
Yep. The outsiders for the inside linebacker, excuse me. We got to figure out one for the coaching staff. I can't think of one now, but we'll have to get that later. What would you do for special teams? Got DeAndre.
I didn't come up with one for the special teams, but the other guys is I think really, really good. Because it's interesting how you can decipher special teams as a whole. We don't know what we have with DeAndre Carter yet. You saw what Dustin Hopkins did to your kicking game when he came on the team last year. But the rest of your team as a unit was, mediocre at best. It wasn't anything that really blew your socks off. Special teams, look at Reality Check's comment right now because I'm looking at it, staring it in the face. That might be it. Kicking and screaming.
Yep. How about this?
I dig it.
How about this? Would you go longest yard for the running backs group? Because it felt like to me, like any time it was like 4th and 1 or 4th and inches, 3rd and inches, more so 3rd and inches. Like the low numbers, I felt like we never could get. 4th and 2, we saw what happened there. Like there's so many like the longest yard. I feel like
I see where you're going.
Maybe I don't know if that's running back or maybe that's offensive line. I don't know. Could be special teams because damn it, we give up so many long yardage on punt returns. Anything else that you can think of or that you brought on?
No, I think that was all of mine. So I'm loving seeing some of these references here. Special teams, it's Ted. Look, I love Ted. I would just love to hear the explanation of this.
Yes. Little Giants. Who would you give that position group to? Or that movie title to? What position group?
That one might be like for the special teams, That one could definitely go for the special teams, Little Giants.
Yeah. All right. So before we head out of here, we'll give a chance for any questions, topics, last-minute thoughts before we get out. We are wrapping up. Again, we talked about wide receivers. Chargers apparently, according to Bucky Brooks, have the top wide receiver duo in the NFL. What say you? We talked about top duos in the NFL. which were things like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Talked about Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. We talked about Derwin James and whoever else you want to be in the secondary not being there, which I wonder if they put secondary top 2. I wonder if Derwin and J.C. Jackson combined.
I remember when they were talking about PFF actually had an article on this when they were talking about overall secondary groups. And I believe that they put the Chargers at number 8, and that's collectively taking in their safety groups and their cornerback groups. So they had them at number 8, but that's the last ranking I can ever remember seeing them on.
Gotcha.
So take that for what you will, because I know that not everybody believes in PFF.
Take that. So we've talked about Free Guy, Fast and the Furious. You've had Double Impact, The Avengers, Goodfellas, Catch Me If You Can, all the right moves. We've had Anchorman. We've had The Expendables. I'm sure there's been a bunch of other ones. Jake,
this turned out exactly like I was hoping, by the way, to see all of these.
Yes,
these
and I can't wait until this goes live on YouTube, like after the fact, and people can watch it, because I want to see what these comments look like at the end of the show. For folks who have not already, please hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. If you find us on podcasts, wherever you get those, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find them. Again, we are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. We've actually started a new segment, Chargers Unleashed in 60. So you'll be seeing some of the little snippets come out as we go. Jake, anything else we want to tell the great people of Chargers family before we head out of here on this Unleashed live episode?
We're covered, my friend. Bring us football. I want it back.
Oh, I think you're going to start singing Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way. But we'll go with that. For Jake Hefner, you can find him at Jake D. Hefner, myself at Chargers Homer.
Holy crap, Wolkenstein, you actually made that reference.
I might end this with a bye, you'll see. But hey, you can find us, LAC_Unleashed is our handle for Twitter. Before I embarrass Jake anymore, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed.